Have you ever spent weeks or maybe even months looking at homes online only to arrive in Colorado feeling like you have to make one of the biggest financial decisions of your life and make that decision in just a few days? Now, if that's you, I want to take some of that pressure off because you don't have to figure this out all by yourself. I've helped a lot of buyers relocate to Colorado, and one thing almost every one of them tells me is that I had no idea there was so much to consider. Now, while buying a home can be a little complicated, but more so relocating, that adds an extra layer because you're trying to choose a home, a community, a lifestyle, and you're trying to do it in a place that you've actually never lived. And that certainly can be a lot. And if you've been binge watching videos about moving to Colorado, I welcome you and I am glad you are here. And before we go any further, hopefully you've already watched my previous video on planning your Colorado house hunting trip. And if you haven't done so, no worries. I'll be sure to link it below because it does a great job of setting the stage for everything that we're going to cover today. And today I want to show you what happens after that planning or strategy session is done and how we turn it into a successful house hunting trip. And before this video is over, I'm going to show you the difference between visiting Colorado and evaluating it as your future home. And once you make that mindset shift, you'll never look at a house hunting trip the same way. So let's start with something that surprises a lot of buyers. The biggest mistake that I see relocation buyers make isn't choosing the wrong house. It's falling in love with a house before they've fallen in love with the community. Now, don't get me wrong. We're absolutely going to look at houses. I promise. But the reality is, you can remodel a kitchen. You can replace flooring. You can paint walls, but you can't move the neighborhood. You can't shorten your commute, and you can't pick the house up and move it closer to the hiking trails or the downtown area or your favorite coffee shop. That's why I encourage buyers to experience the community, to experience before deciding whether the house is the one. I'll give you an example. I worked with buyers who were relocating for a job near the airport. Before they came to Colorado, they were convinced they needed to live as close to work as possible. Makes sense, right? But after we spent time exploring different communities, they realized something. Yes, they'd drive to work during the week, but on the weekends, they wanted to be in the foothills. They wanted to be mountain biking, hiking, exploring mountain towns. They weren't choosing between two houses anymore. They were choosing how they wanted to spend their free time. And that completely changed where they decided to buy. If we had started by simply touring homes, they probably would have fallen in love with a house that didn't really fit the lifestyle that they wanted. Because the goal isn't just finding a beautiful home, it's finding the right place to build your life. So what does a typical house hunting trip actually look like? Well, the answer is it depends. One of the very first questions that I ask is, how long are you going to be in Colorado? Some buyers have 5 days. Some have 3. Some only have a weekend. Every relocation trip is certainly different. So instead of forcing everyone into the same schedule, I build their itinerary around the time that you have available. If you're here for several days, well, that's great. It gives us time to slow down a little. We'll explore the communities that you've narrowed down. We'll drive the commute. We'll walk around downtown. We'll stop for coffee. We'll check out the parks and trail systems. We'll be sure to get a feel for what everyday life might actually look like. Then, once we've experienced those communities, we'll start touring homes. Now, if you're only here for a couple of days, don't panic. We'll simply adjust the schedule. Maybe we spend the morning getting familiar with 2 or 3 communities, and then we start touring homes that afternoon. The schedule changes, the process doesn't. And I think that's what gives buyers confidence, because there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Every relocation trip should be customized to your goals and to your timeline. And one thing I try very hard to avoid is buyer fatigue. Believe it or not, seeing more homes doesn't always help. In fact, it often does the exact opposite. And after a while, every kitchen starts looking the same. Every primary bedroom starts blending together. You start asking, wait, which one had the finished basement, the walk-in closet? Which one back to open space? Which one had the amazing view? It all starts running together. I'd much rather show you 8 homes that truly fit your goals than 20 homes that you'll barely remember. Because this isn't about checking boxes. It's about making a confident decision. And here's something that I encourage every buyer to pay attention to. And it has nothing to do with the house. Pay attention to how you feel. How do you feel when you pull into the neighborhood? Can you picture yourself living there? Can you see yourself driving home after work? Maybe walking the dog after dinner? Meeting friends for dinner nearby? Heading out for a Saturday morning hike? What about running to the grocery store? Those are the things that become your everyday life. And you simply can't get that from listing photos. I had another couple who came to Colorado convinced they wanted to live in Littleton. And well, honestly, Littleton is a fantastic community. But here's what they discovered. Littleton isn't just Littleton. There are areas with a charming historic downtown feel. Others feel more suburban. Some are closer to the foothills. Others offer easier access to C-470. And until they experienced those different areas, they really didn't know which one fit them best. But by the end of the trip, they weren't asking, which house should we buy? They were asking, what part of Littleton feels like home? And that's when I knew we were making real progress. Because once you found the right community, finding the right house becomes so much easier. That's really my job. I don't expect you to know Colorado. That's my job. I expect you to know what's important to you. And then together we'll figure out the rest. So let's go back to something that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. The difference between visiting Colorado and evaluating it as your future home, well, there's a big difference. When you're visiting, it's easy to focus on the exciting stuff. The mountain views, the beautiful kitchen, the updated bathroom, the huge backyard. And those things absolutely matter. But when you're evaluating Colorado as your future home, your perspective, well, it starts to change. Instead of asking, do I like this house? You start asking, can I picture my everyday life here? Can I see myself driving this commute every morning? Where am I going to grab coffee on Saturday? How long will it take me to get to the grocery store? Will I actually use those hiking trails that I kept talking about? Can I picture myself living here, not just spending a long weekend here? That is the mindset shift. You're no longer visiting. You are evaluating your future. And you're evaluating before you decide to write an offer. I want to leave you with one final question. If this house wasn't available tomorrow, would you still want to live in this community? Think about that for a second. Now, if the answer is yes, that's a really good sign because you've fallen in love with the lifestyle, not just the house. Now, if the answer is no, there's a chance you've fallen in love with the house before you've fallen in love with where it is. And that's exactly the mistake that I want to help you avoid. My goal isn't for you to leave Colorado saying, I found my favorite house. My goal is for you to leave feeling confident that you found the right place to build your life. Because when you choose the right community first, well, finding the right house becomes so much easier. And if you're planning a move to Colorado, I'd love the opportunity to help, whether you're moving in just a few months or if you're just starting your research. I'm happy to answer your questions and help you put together a game plan that's tailored to your goals. You'll find all of my contact information in the description below. And if you're continuing your relocation research, be sure to check out the rest of my Moving to Colorado Start Here playlist, because each video builds on the last, so you'll have a step-by-step roadmap to help you feel confident throughout the entire relocation process. And if you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up and subscribe, because it helps more people who are planning a move to Colorado find these videos. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Nicole Rabalato, and remember, life is short, live somewhere awesome, and be well. We'll see you next time.